Here's a cold start of a 2016 Golf R with the Stage 3 daily Southbend clutch. So this is neutral, AC on. Revs counterbalance a bit when it starts. You don't really hear it on the inside. Most of the noise you hear is really with the windows down. It's worse with the AC on, but interior cabin's really quiet for the Golfs anyway. Here's the sound. I'm gonna pick this up from the outside. So 300 miles on the Southbend clutch, Stage 3, and this is the noise you get to hear when you're taking off from a stop and you give it too much gas at low revs. So there's a little bit of rattle if you give it probably around 25% throttle, but it's not that bad. It's not a big deal. It just takes some getting used to. If you don't like hearing the noise, then you obviously can't give it that much gas at low RPM like this. I think that's the main difference between having a single mass flywheel and a dual, is you never hear those noises otherwise. But low RPM, high gas, like that. Next up, let's do a walk around. This is with the AC running, car neutral. Interior noise, as you can tell, not much of a big deal, but I'll have a walk around and then we'll get to hear what it sounds like outside. So this is outside of the car. Idling with the AC on is probably the worst that you'll get. Most of the people that are going to hear it are people on the outside, not really those who are inside the car. Left side is much quieter because obviously the transmission's on the opposite side. I'll turn off the AC so you can see how much quieter it is. So here, interior, AC is off, neutral. Can't really hear it. I even have the door open. I'll walk outside. Now, as you can see, it's a huge difference. Can't really tell. I mean, you hear the valves or the fuel injection more than you hear the clutch. So if you don't use the AC a whole lot, you're not even going to notice any difference with the clutch. A couple more takeoff videos. Not even going to try accelerating much because most of the noise you hear is at low RPMs anyway. But it's very tame. The clutch effort, it is significantly higher than stock. I think the most noticeable aspect of it really is that you have to think about maintaining pressure on the pedal on the release of the clutch. The stock clutch is very assisted. Even if you remove the spring, it comes back so softly that you don't feel it on your foot. But with this aftermarket clutch, during break-in, it was very stiff. I mean, I can't even put it in terms of percentages relative to stock because stock is effortless. So if you didn't maintain force on the pedal, then you would engage too quickly. And this was happening across every gear. So you're very used to quickly shifting through first, second, third. And when you have just replaced the clutch, it becomes extremely difficult to be smooth, especially if you go over bumps, because if your foot moves a little bit too quickly, then the clutch engages immediately and the pressure is quite high. We're about 300 miles in a break-in, and right now it is very smooth. Engagement is very controllable, feels very much like stock, except better. That's what I can say. And the pedal effort, I think it's mostly noticed once again during release, not so much during pressing down. And I would say relative to stock now, I can say that I have about 30 to 35% more effort. You can easily live with it on a daily basis as long as you're not having to maintain your foot on the clutch smacked against the floor all day. If you have to do a lot of stop and go and you don't like going into neutral and giving your foot a break, then definitely I think it's best if you stick with a stage 1 with a more conservative clutch, such as the Sachs. So here's some samples of taking off, shifting through the gears. I'll try to show, because one of the particular aspects that are annoying to people on the stock clutch is the transition from first to second. Sometimes second to third, people feel like they can't get shifts smooth because unless you ride the hell out of the clutch, the engagement is not really that precise. But with the Southbend, it feels a lot better. See, it's pretty immediate. You don't have to wait that long on the revs to drop, although you still can't just bang the gears. If you do, then at least under partial throttle, it helps if you ride the clutch a tiny bit. But other than that, it's pretty good. Just a bit of idle with the AC running after the car's been warmed up for a bit. I'd argue that if you listen to any kind of radio music, you're not going to pick it up. I think the only difference versus stock, if you have any other type of noise in the cabin, is that you can feel a very light tap going through the firewall and through the pedals from, I guess, the clanking of the single mass flywheel. But it's very slight, so nothing that would bother anyone. As the noise gets from the single mass flywheel when you're accelerating at low RPM. I'm purposefully giving it a bit too much gas coming off a low RPM to try to make it rattle, but I mean, you can easily get used to that. It's not much of an issue. And if you maintain your throttle low at low RPMs, which ideally is what you want to do to not hurt the engine, not lug it, then you're not going to see much of that. Maybe during the transition from starting from a dead stop on first gear, you'll hear some rattle, or maybe turning in on second gear. But other than that, there's really no difference between stock or aftermarket with a single mass. If you've got any questions, just drop a comment and I'll make sure to reply as soon as you guys leave some messages.